You know that friend or coworker that has a TMI problem? Telling you all about their relationships, their current stomach problems, and exactly what they're going to be doing on vacation on April 27th?
Hey, nobody cares. Nobody cares.
Or perhaps you know someone, maybe even yourself, who has managed to go on a 5-minute ramble about their personal journey with sourdough when they could have just said, "Sorry, I can't have gluten." These are classic cases of overcommunication. From texting someone way too many times in a short period to being forced into a meeting that has nothing to do with your job, overcommunication can be just so very annoying.
So frustrating.
But it can also be fantastic. So here's the difference between when overcommunication is awkward and when it is awesome, which we'll explore through the lens of replying to messages. Both in personal life and at work, leaving someone on read is almost always a recipe for disaster.
My mom just left me on read.
Particularly when you're working remotely, just sending a quick email or comment or Slack message that says, "Great, thanks," when you receive something you needed, or "I'll get back to you next week" when you don't have the answer yet, or almost any other acknowledgement is incredibly helpful. Because otherwise, you put the other person in the awkward situation of not knowing if their email got to you, whether it had the information that you actually needed. And when would it be appropriate to follow up and check? It keeps expectations clear and avoids any need to make assumptions, which is important when you're communicating over written text, since there's so much that can be lost when we don't have tone of voice or body language to understand context.
And don't underestimate the importance of body language.
These don't need to be detailed responses in most cases. Let's say someone sends you a file that you need. Especially if you're in a hurry, it's easy to just take the file and go do what you need to with it. But it takes almost no extra time and effort to send off a quick "thanks" so they know you got the file and that it's the right file you needed. You don't need to say, "Thanks, this is the right file and I've downloaded it to my device so I can use it on the project," because that's too much. The sweet spot is there between no response and too much response. In this case, just a nice thank you is fine. Here's a more detailed example that shows why it's better to err on the side of over-communication. So we'll do a side-by-side of minimal communication, good communication, and over-communication. Let's imagine that a person, could be any person, a boss, a coworker, a partner, a friend, whoever, is asking you if you can help them out by doing some task. And the person says, "Hey, could you do some task this week?" And you just start doing the task. Then after a while, the person has to say, "Are you going to do it? Should I find someone else?" And you reply, "Oh, yeah, sorry, I'm already working on it." You can see how the lack of communication causes assumptions and confusion for the other person. Now let's look at a case of over communication. Again, the person says, "Hey, could you do some task this week?" And you reply, "Yeah, I'll get it done after I finish my lunch today, and I should be able to get it done by Thursday. But if I can't get rid of this headache, then I might not have it done by then, but I'll let you know." And they say, "Thanks." And later you say, "We're on track, and it should be done on time." And then when it's done, you send them another message and say, "Finished. I got confused with part of it, but I figured it out in the end." Clearly, a lot of that information was unnecessary. We didn't need to know about your lunch and your headache and that you got confused but figured it out. But I would rather have too much information that occasionally verges on the side of annoying than to not have the information that I need. And in some relationships, especially personal relationships with certain friends or partners, this type of overcommunication might actually be preferred. But in most settings, particularly in the workplace, there's a happy medium that might look something like this. The person asks, "Hey, could you do some task this week?" And you say, "Yeah, I'll let you know when it's done." They say, "Thanks." And then when it's done, you say, "Done." You can see that in many work contexts, this takes very little additional time, but saves a lot of confusion. And I know that right now, a bunch of you are thinking, "Well, yeah, no freaking duh, Dallin." but actually, yes, freaking duh. Because this is a huge issue in the world right now. It seems obvious in principle, but in practice, it often gets totally missed. Remote work is still very prevalent, and one of the single biggest complaints I've heard from the companies I've worked with is about communication breakdown. That's why you may often get pulled into Zoom meetings that easily could have been an email. Because in a Zoom meeting, I can see you. I know that you got the information, and I can get a response from you saying that you got the information, all in a matter of seconds. If I send an email and you don't reply to the email, I don't know if we're on the same page, and now I feel like I need to wait a while to check so that I'm not annoying. Not to mention that I now feel a little bit annoyed with you because there's something that's important, at least to me, that's left hanging out there unresolved, and I don't know where we're at on it. So if you're tired of unnecessary meetings and confusion, practice over communicating just a little bit. I'm not saying answer every text in the middle of the night or every email immediately, because boundaries are good and it's way healthier for you to not be glued to your phone. But within reason, when you receive the message, send the simple 2-word email letting someone know that you understand, or let them know when you'll be in touch, or hit the little green checkbox emoji on Slack. It will make your life and the lives of everyone you communicate with a much better place. This video is sponsored by me. Did you know that if your workplace has communication or conflict issues, I can come work with you to help fix them? I have worked with dozens of companies across the country, ranging from medical staff to Meta, to help their teams communicate more effectively and eliminate conflict in the workplace. And I would love to help yours too. You can just send me an email at Dallin@DallinCooper.com and we'll make something happen. Now hit subscribe and send this video to your coworker who needs to tell you less about their sourdough obsession.